Welcome back to Restaurant Review. I'm your host, Bob Bockelman. We're here at Orleans 77, 3 to 4 p.m. It's the 5th of July, and you'll see our set is decorated. Not so much for the 4th of July celebration, but it's coincidental, more appropriately tied in to the restaurant that we're featuring today. But for those who haven't seen us, we're here every Saturday on 77 from 3 to 4 p.m. with a repeat for the late night owls on the following Saturday at 3 a.m. And our main focus here is to debut new restaurants and their chefs and owners and emerging musical guests that are here in our community. We're in our second season and really have done well, and we hope that you're enjoying it. We're getting a lot of feedback. We also want to tell you that now I had a gracious opportunity on Tuesdays. We're on local channel 1350 WSMB in the mornings from 7:30 to 7:35 on the New Orleans Living Show, and it gives us a chance to a little bit to talk about restaurants in general and more specifically who's going to be on our show in the upcoming week. So if you miss a particular week, don't forget, or just interested in hearing about restaurants, if you're up early on Tuesday mornings, to tune us in. All right, again, we have a brand new restaurant for you, and a lovely and a great new musical guest. And what we're going to do is actually take a stroll to the back of the studio and meet the gentleman and hear all about his music. 1 second, please. Well, welcome to the show. It's Mr. Kenny Gaines, and we're pleased to have you here today.
Thank you.
Great. Tell us about yourself. Are you a native? Or are you...
Actually, I'm a native of UPTOWN.
Oh, that's a great little fishing community for those who don't know where that is. A great little place to visit. And how long have you lived here in the city, though?
Well, I've been in New Orleans mostly for about 35 years.
35 years. Great, great. And tell us a little bit about how you got interested in music.
It's kind of an unusual way, I guess. One day when I was just a little bitty kid, my dad asked me out in New York if I wanted to play piano, and whatever possessed me to say yes, I had no idea.
That's unusual. Every story, it's always the mom encouraging their son to be the pianist. So for the dad to volunteer, that's certainly the unusual story. But we're glad you took him up on it.
Well, I'm glad I did too, actually. It's
Right.
something that I enjoy immensely.
Right. Now, Kenny doesn't have a CD out yet, but hopefully that'll be coming along soon, and no website. But again, if you ever want to hear anything about or learn about any of our guests, go to our website, restrevue.com, and we'll be glad to answer any questions or how to put you in touch with Kenny so you can find out more about him, his music, and appearances. Speaking of appearances, I know he's sent to us by Phil Malonson on the Nutri-Ground, and normally I know you're kind of a regular there, so when would be the best time for people to come see you?
I'm generally there on Sunday evening for sure. I like
right.
to go over there and play around, and then Phil is usually there too, so that gives us a chance to work together a little bit.
Right. Yes, Phil does a lot of duets and impromptu stuff, which really enhances the whole situation. Sunday night, for those who are not familiar, is my open mic night, so any of you aspiring artists can go to the Nutri-Ground, sign up, and wait your turn and get a full audience to hear you for a real good debut. So that's what we do, a lot of auditions there, and if we're not able to, then Phil gives us a list of who came on, and that's where we get a lot of the sources of our great musical talent. Well, enough about that. I know the folks want to hear you. What are you going to do for your first composition?
Well, I'm going to do a little ditty that I made up called Tickle Me.
Tickle Me. Take it away. Very, very nice. Boy, that's almost reminiscent of ragtime. Of course, most of my audience out there is much too young to know what ragtime is. But that is a great, great song. Kenny, we really enjoyed that, and we look forward to his couple other songs later on in the show. But let's get about the business of the business du jour, as we call it. And as we mentioned earlier in the day, our set today is done all up in red, white, and blue. And even though it's the post 4th of July, since we're here on the 5th, at the same time we have a little left over of that. But more importantly, the actual restaurant that we're featuring today is called La Nouvelle Cafe, and very French-oriented theme. And so therefore, we both share the same colors, the tricolor that the French flag is and the American flag. Of course, are both the good old red, white, and blue. So that's what you'll see our set today as we go through, and you'll see also the decor of the cafe. And today we have an unusual situation, and it's happened a couple of times before, where our chef is not available, and this time because he's actually out of the country, so it's not like he's down sick or having too much business. So he's actually touring Europe the rest of the summer, getting more ideas for his restaurant. And so we're pleased today to have with us one of his associates who is keeping the doors open and welcoming diners all the time, Miss Morgan KINNET. Welcome to the show, Morgan.
Hi.
Did I pronounce that right? Or you
Yeah, you pronounced it just fine.
Good. Thank you for that. I'm glad to hear it. Well, Morgan was graciously enough to take up time from the restaurant today to come on in and be with us on the show. Now, it is another uptown restaurant. I tell you, on Magazine Row. Magazine is, as you've been watching the show, hearing how many new restaurants have opened up on Magazine. And we know of at least one more coming down the pipe fairly soon, which hopefully we'll have on the show. And we're anxious to bring them to you. But this one has been open. How long have you been open, Morgan?
We've been open since January.
January,
so about 6 months.
Great. That's good. So you see, it's still relatively new for most people's standards. And the reason that this is actually a cafe and coffee house. Now, normally, as you know, we don't do the coffee houses. And the reason why is because the majority of the items that are bakery related, which is the predominant theme, are wholesaled out from another baker. We have several bakers here in the city that do a lot of wholesale to the retail outlets. So many times the product are the same, just with similar names. And so that's why we don't do it. And we certainly don't do chains. A lot of them are large chains operations, either located here or for international. We chose this one because of two. One, because it's independent. Two, because of the French influence. And that is attributed to the chef. The executive chef is Fando Mandi, who, as I mentioned, is already touring Europe. And I'd like Morgan to tell us a little bit about his background so you can see what he's bringing to the table, that it's not a coffee shop, and that's why we're putting the emphasis on cafe rather than the coffee part of the shop. Go ahead, please, Morgan. Tell us a little bit about Fandi.
Mandi, and it's Fadil Mandi, and he grew up in Algeria, which is in North Africa, as you know.
Of course, there's very French influence right there.
Oh, yes. And then he moved when he was early 20s, right out of his teens, to Italy, and started working in the kitchens there, went around Europe, and got all sorts of influences from all those cultures. And that's pretty much, he put together his recipes from his North African background.
That gave him his resume, per se, background.
Right.
And so when did he come here to the States, and specifically here to New Orleans?
To New Orleans, I believe about 5 years ago.
Okay.
And when he first came to the States, he actually went and worked in the kitchens in New York.
Great.
Right.
That's a good place, too, to learn.
Right. So.
And how long has he been in New Orleans, you say?
I think about 5 years.
And he's worked at several local restaurants as well?
Yes, he has.
Good. So he's really been honing his skill, and that's the important thing, but taking the influences of his native birthland and his travels to put that together to a great little restaurant. As you see, you'll see some pictures of the decor. Once again, instead of a lot of the coffee houses are just new buildings done in strip malls, just the opposite. Once again, he's taken a lovely little shotgun double, Uptown on Magazine, beautifully acclimated with the hardwood floors, high ceilings, the fireplace in the living room. So you really have a great comfort level here. Not only that, he's extended, you'll see some of the pictures will feature that he has some outside dining, got a lovely gallery porch, and even some further down the steps. It's the old-time French wrought iron gate and fence, but with little small tables there. So it's a great place to dine, whether in or out, especially with our fall weather coming now. The hot summer, if it really picks up, will be probably forcing more people inside. but at the same time, you have a lot of options. And like I say, just a really unique decor with red, whites, and blues, and some lovely. Latest thing is putting a little dictation quotes around the room to really add the homey touch. Okay, well, beyond that, now we really need to get into it. And folks, don't hesitate if you want to call. The director will flash the phone numbers up on the screen to ask Morgan or our musician or myself any questions about the show. But in the interim, we're going to go ahead and start. And I believe we're going to start with the appetizer soups. I believe we have the soups on the menu. So what we're going to do, and this one was a delight. It's well, I know it was barley and what I call spicy barley. I don't think y'all have a real signature name for it yet, but this really shows the Algerian and Moroccan influence. Tell us a little bit about this soup, please, Morgan.
Well, actually, I think that's the noodle soup.
Oh, that is the noodle soup? I'm sorry. The color looks good. I thought
it does kind of look the same.
Well, tell us about the noodle soup, because I know it had lamb and stuff. Most noodles, when they have beef noodle, is what we all know about, but just the opposite has a lamb noodle. Tell us about that, because it was excellent.
Okay, well, this soup has 5 spices in it, and his extra touches, but the main ones are cumin, cinnamon, and they don't use a beef base or any kind of meat base. They actually just put it with water and the lamb meat to make the flavor. So it's nothing that we serve. Homemade. Yeah, nothing that we serve at La Nouvelle is. It's all fresh.
Prepared. And that's why we emphasize it. Exactly. But again, the influence of the cumin and also, of course, the lamb. Most, like I say, vegetable beef soups here in America. But lamb is such an important in the Moroccan and the French influence, but certainly in the Moroccan and African thing. So they're taking their most popular meat and put it into a wonderful noodle soup. So this is a great change from our ordinary noodle beef soup. And again, for the cool weather or the hot weather, we've got a great one. Well, now, if we've got it in order, the next picture will actually happily be the barley soup. And that, there we go. Yeah. Look how pretty. Look at the color in that, folks. It's got a beautiful consistency. But as I said, they really should call it zingy barley, because this has the hidden spice. And of course, here in New Orleans, we love that spice. But this is definitely bringing in the spice and the heat from the influences of his country. Can you tell us a little bit more about the barley soup?
Sure. The barley also has lamb in it. And it's got cracked wheat, onions, same kind of spices as the noodle soup. It's just something different. I don't think I've ever had barley soup anywhere else. And it is tangy, kind of can make your nose run if you're spice sensitive.
It's got that heat, that's exactly right.
But again, I think a lot of that is it's just very fresh, and that really emphasizes the flavors. Exactly.
Now, there's one other soup that we didn't have a picture of we'll talk about before we go on. And I know you wanted to, and that's your carrot soup. And again, most people, what is that? Carrot? That's really unusual. So please, let's talk about that a little bit, because I know the folks will be interested in hearing it.
Well, the carrot is a cream soup, and we use fresh ginger. We finely chopped the ginger and nutmeg, and the carrots are al dente, so it's got a nice, firm, but
right, got the crunch, but
it's not a mush.
Not going to break your tooth.
It's not a mush.
Yeah, because that's it. A cooked carrot sometimes really gets too sweet because it's overly cooked. So the crunch is important. Anything else about it?
Well, the ginger, again, I think is something to talk about, because it just cleanses your stomach out really,
it cleanses the palate.
Right. It makes it really fresh.
Well, that sounds great. So there we got 3 soups, and again, they do a soup de jour, so there's a lot more. And if we have time permits, we'll come back and hopefully tax Morgan with a few more questions. She's doing a bang-up job. Remember, folks, she's not in the kitchen. Fendel has left one of his trusted associate chef who has to stay to maintain the shop. We're talking about a small place, so obviously he's not able to totally remove his chef from the kitchen, because obviously they would have to close down. You're looking at pictures of the lovely little balcony outside the gallery looking into the restaurant, which again has some small, great little wrought-iron tables, a wonderful place to eat. So Morgan is really helping us out and doing Fendel and his associate a real favor, and as well as our co-workers, by tackling this tough job of speaking what chefs normally speak. But let's go on, and we're going to move into now. The next area is salads. These are very, very good here. You've got a lot of them. And this one, folks, we always know about a walnut or walnut salad. Some people call it ambrosia, but Tell us about this. Look at the beautiful colors and the. Can you tell us a little bit about this? And I'll put my 2 cents in after.
Okay. This is the salad au chèvre, and
what was that again?
The salad au chèvre.
Au chèvre. Okay. That's got a great French name. Go ahead.
Right, and it's the white stuff that you saw on it is the goat cheese.
That's your feta cheese or goat cheese, right?
Goat cheese. And it's got grated carrots, apples, walnuts. It's made with Boston lettuce, which is not like romaine or anything like that.
Boston bib, right?
Small
Very delicate.
heads.
Very delicate lettuce. Anything else in it?
Yes. The thing that really makes a salad, unique is the orange juice dressing, and that's the dressing that we do. We're the only place that makes it, and it's just like a very fresh, different kind of, something that people aren't used to. Right. You've tried it.
Yes, oh, definitely. It's a Waldorf salad, which we all know about, but done definitely different. So I think the idea of using the Boston bib, the great fresh apples, of course, and the walnuts, and the feta cheese, which again, bringing his background of his homeland into it, is a great combination. And putting the citrus flavored dressing is just really a highlight to it. So I would heartily encourage any of you out there to try this as an entree or certainly as a salad that you can eat with your meal. But let's go on to another one, and if we have it in order. I know one of my favorites is the salad niçoise. Is that one we have on? Beautiful. Let's talk about this because this is truly the French salad, but again, folks, and I'll pinpoint that again, some of the differences from the true French moving into the Algerian background. Let's talk about this, please, Morgan, with regard to some of the ingredients in this beautiful salad.
Well, this salad has olives and anchovies, and you see the tomatoes with a little bit of the homemade mayonnaise on them, on the hard-boiled eggs.
Right. What's interesting is, excuse me for interrupting, but they're using both the Kalamata olives, which is the dark brownish red olives with no seeds, and then the pitted typical Italian olives. But as she said, they're wrapping. Many of these are wrapped in the anchovy.
Right.
And the true salad niçoise doesn't use the whole anchovy, it uses anchovy paste and uses some other capers to get that salt. Here it's coming directly from the fresh source of the anchovy. So tell us what else is in it, because it really is a great, great dish. Always has to have your boiled potato, and you say your homemade mayonnaise. And what else is in it, please?
Well, it's got a vinaigrette dressing, and that we also make ourselves, which is just basil, onions, garlic simmered down with red wine vinegar and olive oil, and it's really nice and strong, but kind of dressing.
Okay.
And the cucumbers, we have cucumbers in there.
Oh yeah, real crisp. I mean, for salad niçoise fans, you're going to find a little different flavor, but I'm telling you, heartily enjoyable because of the direct anchovies and the different type olives and just a few different things. But really a great, great touch. So this is a great variety. And salad niçoises are so hard to find. There's only a few restaurants. In the old days, it was fairly common in all of our French restaurants. But nowadays, there's only a few really good restaurants that have it. So here's a great opportunity to pick one up at lunch. Now, there's one more salad, and this one is truly enjoyable, folks. Which one is this called, please?
This is the Macédoine.
Macédoine.
Beautiful
color. And it's hard to do justice here with the picture, but the actual base thing is almost like a mock choux. We've got corn. What other vegetables do you have in the basis?
Green beans, carrots, and potatoes.
Potatoes, right.
And then the tomatoes and the olives are really a garnish.
But it's in kind of a mayonnaise base.
It is a mayonnaise dressing.
Right.
Mayonnaise is an actual salad dressing.
Right.
Everyone knows you find it in the salad dressing aisle. But so we used it as the dressing in the salad, our homemade mayonnaise.
Excellent, folks. It's chilled to perfection. It really is a wonderful, refreshing, especially now in the summer. Now, as you mentioned, the garnish just adds to the presentation. Of course, it's edible. That's what's good about it. But the actual core of the salad is really something that gives you some flavor. The mayonnaise has a little sweetness, obviously, but so do the vegetables, your corn and you mix your green beans. So it's really a little carrots, something you'll really like. So we encourage you to try any of these salads. Now, what we're going to do is go ahead and move on into the entrees, but we'll probably come back because they have a long list of salads, and we've only touched on 3 of them. We don't have pictures on all of them, but I think we can still talk about and do justice for them because, especially right now with the summertime, people are looking for light. Nothing better than the soup and the salad, or a salad and an entree, or a salad by itself. But these are fresh. We wanted to give you three of the most unique salads that the place offers. We'll come back and talk about some of their others later. But let's start with their, and of course, a lot of the entrees here are sandwich-oriented, but with great breads and truly unique ingredients. And we're going to start with one of the sandwiches, and I know we have a large vegetarian audience, so folks, you don't even have to call on this. I think if you listen closely, you'll see several of the vegetable dishes besides the salads we've just talked about and some of the soups that are already vegetarian. But one of the first ones we had is an Italian soup, bringing back his trip to Italy, and it's called the panino. So tell us about the panino sandwich, please.
The panino is it's a buffalo mozzarella, fresh sliced buffalo mozzarella with our homemade pesto sauce, which has pine nuts in it.
Right.
And tomatoes, sliced tomatoes on bread, and it's warmed. It's not like melted, but warmed. And it's really one of our more popular sandwiches.
It really is. This is a very famous Italian salad, folks. Of course, a lot of them use the provolone cheese or the usually white provolone with sliced tomatoes and onions, and it's just a pristine Italian salad. They've taken a step far. First, buffalo mozzarella is just the best cheese possible. It's so wonderfully tasting. Then mixing it with a little pesto sauce, putting some greens, and I'm forgetting whether that was a Boston bib or not, and then finishing that off with the tomatoes. So it's a really, really great salad.
And it's
sandwich.
light. It's light. It's light also, really light.
All
the cheese is really light.
The breads are light. And again, you right away say, oh, that's French bread. No, it's not. It's a baguette. It is French. There's no doubt about it. But for those who know the difference in the taste, a baguette is so much lighter than the traditional French bread is heavy. So these are definitely great, great items. You couldn't get a better time than the hot summer days to try some of these sandwiches because of the lightness of it and the great unique flavors, as well as the salads. Let's move on to another one, and again, this is truly the vegetarian delight, and that is, you even call it the roasted vegetables. Look, folks, we've kind of spread it open one side to let you see the quantity and the variety of vegetables. And of course, right away you start with portobellos. Is that what's on there, those mushrooms?
No, we've got zucchini, bell pepper, tomatoes, onions, and then that white stuff on top is the aioli sauce, which is a garlic mayonnaise.
Garlic mayonnaise.
Also, everything homemade. And
go ahead.
Oh, okay. And also, it's roasted sautéed right when you order the sandwich. Nothing is pre-made or nothing.
Right. So, folks, it's not. She's trying to tell you in a nice way. It's not a fast food restaurant. That doesn't mean you're going to wait there for hours. But at the same time, we have very conscientious chefs who are making your order to scratch, whether it's already something here or something you want to design yourself. And that's another thing, you're wholly encouraged to mix and match, to add some certain ingredients or take something off or create your own. And the chef and the hospitable crew like Morgan are very there, always ready to help and be of your service. Now we want to so we won't think it's only a vegetarian restaurant. We really want to get to a true American French sandwich, and that's your roast beef au jus, which we call it au jus with natural. And this, folks, was divine. As you can see there, we just for illustrative purposes, we've taken the au jus, the natural gravies that the roast is cooked in, put it in a little plate on the side. You can actually have it served on the side, or you can let them drizzle it on, and either way you want it. You can put more gravy on a sauce, but truly a real great combination. Let's talk a little bit about that, please, Morgan.
Well, our roast beef sandwich has caramelized onions on it, and that really makes a difference from the crunch of regular onions.
A big help to caramelize them. That's exactly right. And what else, please?
We have Dijon mustard and fresh meat, fresh roast beef.
Of course, melt in your mouth beef. It's just really, it's not chewy, it's not tough. Just melt in your mouth, and especially with the great au jus gravy.
And the gravy is salty, but it just adds the right amount of salt because
exactly.
Right.
Exactly. It's not overpowering, but it gives that natural flavor to it, which really makes you really anxious to eat it. Just really delicious. Okay. Now we have some more sandwiches, and we're going to talk about those in a minute. And before we go, but I understand Mr. Director tells us that we have a telephone call. So we want to welcome our caller. This is Bob Bockelman, and we have Morgan KINNET of La Nouvelle Cafe. And who's on the phone, please?
It's Ann.
Ann, please welcome to the show. What can we help you with?
I wanted wanted to ask Morgan, I know that you mentioned the restaurant was on Magazine Street, but
That's correct.
I didn't get the exact address,
Okay.
and I wanted to find out what their hours were.
Great, good questions. Thank you. We missed that. Whereabouts? I know you're maybe almost in between, closer to Napoleon, but you're in between Napoleon and Louisiana on the riverside. But give us the exact
Right.
address, please.
We're right on the corner of Amelia and Magazine.
Okay.
And that's 3650 Magazine.
Great. And like I say, there's a double house. Now, the other half is not the
Right.
restaurant, so but you can see the difference because of the
Right.
great umbrellas outside on
And the sign.
And, of course, the sign. That's right. And then, tell us about what days and what hours. What days are we open?
We're open 7 days a week.
7 days a week. That's great.
Monday through Friday, we're open 8 to 6.
Okay.
And on Saturday and Sunday, 10 to 6.
Great. So you can get at least breakfast. And we're going to talk about, we're doing something backwards here because we're de-emphasizing the nature of the coffee house, even though that really is not what we're trying to say. But we're really trying to emphasize the uniqueness of this particular coffee house and calling it a cafe because of the chef's great talent in some of the dishes that we've already talked about. But we will come back to that as kind of like the breakfast items and talk about those other ideas in the coffees during the beverages. And is there anything else you might want to know?
I think that was it. Thank you.
Well, listen, we really appreciate that call because that helps a lot of our diners find the place and know when they can go try it. Thank you for calling and keep watching.
Great, thank you.
All righty. Okay, Morgan, let's see. We want to go ahead and continue. We're doing the entrees. Let's talk about a couple more, and then we're probably going to need to turn it over to our musical guests. If not, we'll then hit on some of the breakfast items and some of the pastries as we move into the desserts. I know there's a chicken sandwich because, again, chicken is an important ingredient, again, because of its healthiness and light, and everyone has chicken. Mm-hmm. But we call it a chicken pan bagnette. Well, of course, bagnette is the French for the type of bread we're talking about. But how do we actually prepare the chicken, and how do we garnish it?
The chicken is grilled. Okay. Of course, right when you order it, it's not pre-grilled or anything. And the chicken has been marinated in special sauce, seasoned, and really flavorful and juicy. And then it's garnished on the sandwiches ratatouille, which is the traditional provincial style vegetables. That's like eggplant, and what they do is they chop it up with some tomatoes and saute them all together so all the flavors mix and spread it on kind of like a sauce.
Of course, that's definitely his influence there. So taking chicken to another level, and he's grilling it, which of course is the healthiest way to eat it, and then mixing it with ratatouille sauce. That is a great idea. Now, one other one we want to throw out before, because this is my favorite, smoked turkey. I can eat turkey day in and day out, and no matter what you do to a turkey, unless you just don't cook it, is what I can eat. So tell us about your smoked turkey before we move on.
The smoked turkey, very, very healthy sandwich. It's got our homemade mayonnaise on it, which really makes a difference, and the pepper and the sun-dried tomato sauce, which is also homemade. Great.
Well, I think we have time for one more because, again, I know there's one that I would like to also try and I didn't get to, is the tuna. Tell us about your tuna sandwich, please.
The tuna is really unique because most of the times when you order a tuna sandwich or a chicken salad sandwich or something, it's got a lot of mayonnaise and it's real mushy together. But this is real, like you can chunks of the tuna and the vegetables. We've got capers, all of that in there, anchovies, hard-boiled eggs, all on it. It's not mayonnaise-y or anything. Really, really healthy and really, really fresh.
Well, that's great. Well, I know there's some more sandwiches, but we're going to go ahead and move along because we've got about 10 more minutes. Our musician's going to come back to us. So let's move on so people get an idea of something. What we're going to do now is actually, normally we would be talking about desserts after the entrees, but desserts here, part of the desserts are basically some of the breakfast items. So we're going to start with just the French pastries, and then that'll bring us into the musician, and then we'll come back and talk about some of the other breakfast items that are not really per se French pastries. So let's talk about, and again, before we get to because we have some great picture ones that we're really going to call dessert. But let's talk about some French ones that I think, a casino cake. And a lot of people don't know what a casino cake is. They have all these visions I know it looks like a jelly roll, but it takes more vanilla. So tell us what a casino cake is, please.
The casino cake, what it looks like, does kind of look like a jelly roll. It's got strawberry on top of the, really, it's not sugary at all. It's really light. The icing on it is more like, it seems like egg white fluff. Not meringue, squishy. It's firm, but very light, very good, not too sugary. Like most French pastries, not too heavy.
Right. That sounds great. And then there's another one. There's a famous one that we have to buy, the baba room. What's your baba room?
That is it's almost like a pound cake, but not as dense.
Right.
And it's got cream in it, cherry on top. It's a nice little sugar sauce on it, but it's not too sweet.
And you couldn't be French without a Napoleon and without flan.
Right.
So let's talk about both your Napoleons and your flan, please.
Napoleon is completely traditional, as well as the flan. Just cream and pastry bread.
Okay, well, great. So those are some of the items that we're talking about that fall into the French pastry situation. So you see we have quite a diversity of information. Now what we're going to do is we're going to actually go ahead and talk about the desserts that we have pictured, because these are really some of the most unusual ones. You're not going to find them in your ordinary French pastry store. And I think the one first picture that we'll see is actually the cutest thing. I mean, it brings back the kid in all of us. I mean, this is, I would say, if nothing else, if you want to really have your children's eyes light up, if you don't mind the sugar, some people are against sugar, I would suggest you come to this restaurant, cafe, any time of day, or pick them up and bring it home for a reward, and reward yourself, because it truly is a unique creation. And they're called the Pig and the Mouse Cookies. Now, once again, the picture doesn't do it justice. For those viewing in our audience, the pig cookies on the left and the mouse cookies on the right. Perhaps you can figure that out. Hopefully your picture will be clearer than what we're seeing. The key there is this does not look like cookie at all. So, Morgan, let's start from scratch and put a little time in explaining, please, if we could, each of the. Let's start with the beautiful little piggy. Can you tell us what makes the piggy glow like that?
The outside of that is a sugar icing, and it's hard, like a cookie outside would be. I mean, not like a rock or anything.
Right.
And underneath is almost like a crust, like a pie crust.
Okay.
And it's filled with a strawberry cream. And then right at the tail and in the head where you see the nose are two different kinds of, both strawberry, but just different consistencies, a little more heavy on the strawberry taste, a little less. Creams also. Okay. So.
Well, now the covering that you said is hard. What flavor is it? I think the quality of our picture, unfortunately, it's my fault, is doing it disjustice. Here it looks more orange in the studio. I'm not sure.
It's pink.
It really is pink, and just why it goes so well with the color is really perfect. And as she mentioned, the little strawberry touches make it even more emphasized. But is there a flavor at all? Is it marzipan? Do you know what the actual covering is?
No, it's a. I'm not quite sure, exactly how they make the covering, but it's real sugary. It's kind of grainy and strawberry flavor. The whole cookie strawberry.
So I didn't get a chance to try it, folks, but I definitely am going back to get several of these because I have a lot of little friends who have children, and I think they'll just really eat up on this from the whole aspect of it. It probably is strawberry marzipan, which is an almond paste, but again, I don't know that for a fact. So we'll feed back on this later on. Now let's get over to the other side of for the chocoholics, to the cutest little mouse you've ever seen. I'm not a rodent fan, but there's certainly, other than Mickey, this is probably the cutest mouse we've seen. So tell us a little bit about this one, please, and how it differs from the pig other than just the look.
It differs from the pig because it is chocolate. Same idea. The covering is a little less grainy. It's more like a chocolate shell, and that's poured over it. The little ears are almonds.
Almonds, great.
And again, you see the little humps like in the
Right,
face and
right.
whatever. That is the different types of chocolate, really light and really
Different
really
flavors
good.
of chocolate. Now, how about the stuffing on the inside?
And the inside is like a more heavy chocolate, more like you would find in
And again,
the pies
the
that
base
you
is
make.
again like a pie crust, like we talked about there.
Mm-hmm.
So, folks, if you're a chocoholic like me, that seems like it covers the base because you sound like you got 3 or 4 different layers of different types of chocolate in there. So you're really going to really feel. I know a lady who's pregnant who's a chocoholic, so I'm definitely going to bring her one of those, and hopefully it won't scare her. But I know she'll eat it like crazy. So that's great. So, folks, definitely something unique to this area and unique to this particular. We're talking to Miss Morgan KINNET of La Nouvelle Cafe on Magazine Street. She's subbing for her great chef, Fando Mandi, who's going back to get some more influence from his native land, from Europe. He's bringing in some additional influences from the European thing, so when he comes back, we're hoping to see some more great new additions to the menu, and especially in the soups and the entrees. But we want to go ahead and look at some of the, our director tells us it's better for us to kind of move on to our musician because, and then we'll come back after the break, after the musical interlude. We'll come back and finish off on the desserts and talk about the breakfast items. Once again, we're talking to Morgan, who's representing La Nouvelle Cafe. Now, we want to go ahead and move it over. We have in-house today Mr. Kenny Gaines, who he did a great song for us in the beginning, a great ragtime musical. He is a pianist. These are all original compositions. And Kenny, if you'll tell us, what are you going to be doing for your second song, please?
Actually, I'd like to do next for you a song I wrote called Sweet Things.
All right, take it away, please. Gaines performing his composition of Sweet Things, and Kenny could not have picked, I don't know how he knew because he didn't know what restaurant we were having, and perfect timing, how he could have picked such an appropriate song. Sweet Things was the name of that song, and that's exactly what we're talking about with our guest today, representing La Nouvelle Cafe. We have Miss Morgan KINNET, who is gratefully substituting for the chef who's touring Europe at the present time. But at the same time, Kenny hit it on the nose. We had just started right before he started that lovely song, talking about one of the most unusual little dessert cookies you can get, for whether it's for yourself or your children, the pig and mouse. But we want to move on to something a little more adult. And the next picture we have is combined two different pies, both French, of course. One on the left is your French chocolate pie, or chocolate silk pie, excuse me, as some people more importantly call, and your lemon pie. Can you tell us about both the pies before we move on, please, Morgan?
Sure, of course. These are like regular silk pies, French silk pies, and the creams, basically it's like a crust, you see the crust, and under that cream is the filling, which is, for the lemon, of course, lemon, and the chocolate. It's really smooth. It's not grainy at all. It's really light. Doesn't fill you up, but it satisfies right after that meal.
Great. Well, these are truly true light ones, especially the lemon one. The chocolate thing might be a little heavier, but for us chocoholics, you got to have it. We'll talk about a few more, and then we're going to move into the breakfast items before we round it out and let Kenny do one more song. And I know there was one that we didn't get a chance to film. Unfortunately, Chef didn't have it ready that day. And it's called, another unusual, called the Hans cake. So I apologize for not having a picture to show you, but because it is so unusual, can you elaborate a little bit for us, please, on that, Morgan?
The Hans cake is not like a mocha cake because it's less coffee flavored, but it is a mix between chocolate and coffee. Okay. And one layer at the bottom is vanilla, and then the two other layers are the chocolate coffee flavor. It's got cream running through each layer. Excuse
me if I get interrupted. I want to visualize this again for the audience as well. Maybe then I get it. So you're saying the bottom level is a white cake, or is it a...
It's a cake.
Cake. So white or a yellow cake, is that what we're talking about?
Right. It's vanilla
Okay, and then the next level is going to be so it's obviously building layers.
It's going up, right? We're building.
So we're building a chocolate, like a mousse, or what was your next layer?
It's the mocha chocolate.
So your coffee chocolate flavored, but it's like a mousse flavoring, right? It's very soft and light.
Oh yeah, it's cake, and then
it's cake
but
again.
It's thin, real thin layer of cake.
So we have the yellow cake, and then the thin mocha cake.
Right.
Okay, and then the next layer
is the mocha cake also, but in between the layers, it's the chocolate flavored cream.
So there is a chocolate mousse or a cream in between. So we've got two
layers
of mocha, so like a mocha sandwich with chocolate layer, but then nestled on top of a yellow layer cake.
Exactly.
And is there any, well, you see the complexity for us not being able to see it. Now, is there any covering or icing on top of that?
On the top is a hard chocolate shell
icing. Really?
Very Great. Smooth. And then, of course, the garnish with a little coffee bean.
Coffee bean. Well, that sounds great. And like I say, I am sorry we don't have a picture of the folks and see it because of its complexity. But again, talking about chocolate and coffee together, great combinations, and here we put it into a cake. So don't forget Hans. And do you know how we came up with the name Hans? No? Okay, well, that's something in mystery. The important thing is that don't forget to try it. Now, they also have a strawberry. We're going to run through some of the other dessert items real quickly. I'm just going to name them, and then we'll move on to some of that breakfast item. There's a strawberry shortcake, a cream puff, chocolate mousse cake, which is another wonderful, and eclair, of course, chocolate eclair, mocha cake, which we've talked. There's some tarts. They do a pineapple tart, a fruit tart, and like I say, a lot of others. So meanwhile, we don't want to spend too much more time on that because I do want to talk about the breakfast items. I mean, obviously, you can go in any time of the day and have any of these desserts or French pastry items. Sometimes for breakfast, people want that sweet taste. That's fine. But let's talk about, obviously, since it is a coffee shop, we're going to have the bread items, and we're going to have croissants. Is that right? Both plain and filled. You have a cinnamon raisin roll. That sounds great.
Well, one of them's cinnamon and one of them's raisin.
Oh, okay.
Right. They're not mixed together.
And then this other one, apple cream cheese Danish. So you have one. Is that, again, two separate ones, right?
Right.
An apple Danish or
and
a cream cheese Danish. And various types of muffins like all the stores do, right?
Right. We have chocolate, banana.
What is this one called? Sugar twist. That's unusual.
A sugar twist, it looks like a braid, and it's
Okay.
like the croissant. It's a little bit crispier on the top, and it's just sugar laced in there.
Excellent. Okay. Well, there's some more. So those are bread items, but some of those sound real sweet to me. So you might have to wait and use even some of those for dessert. But now let's talk about something that's just coming on. I know is your bagels,
Right.
and I know this is real important to you because not so much that you just had bagels, but all the wonderful dressings and one of the fillings that you're going to be making in house that will really literally dress up a bagel. First of all, will you have more than one type of bagel, or is it just going to be the plain bagels?
We're gonna have the plain, and we're gonna have a wheat or
Wheat as well,
multi-grain,
good.
right?
Got to have some combinations. At the same time, now tell us about how we can dress up to make those truly, because I heard some really neat things. Now before I ask that, when are these coming? I know you haven't started that yet.
They're gonna be Monday.
Oh well. That's great. So
Right.
when you get there, folks, it'll be there. So just ask for. So it's great to start if you don't want a sweet item, because again, some of these flavorings are not sweet, some are sweet. So let's go over a few of the different great accompaniments that we have to the bagels.
Well, we're gonna have a couple different kinds of cream cheese. Of course, we're
Okay.
gonna have the regular cream cheese.
Of course, for the basic.
Right, but we're gonna have a peanut butter cream cheese.
All right.
A strawberry blueberry cream cheese.
Wow.
A sun-dried tomato and garlic cream cheese.
Now there we go. We're saying for moving away from some of the sweet items.
Right.
That really sounds excellent. What else? Any others?
No, but we do, and you can get your bagel dressed with whatever is available. You can create your bagel, or we have one that's the classic, which is going to be regular cream cheese, capers and tomato on top.
Wow.
Then we're going to have a peanut butter banana crunch, which is going to be the
Awesome.
peanut butter cream cheese, bananas, granola,
Wow.
and a turkey. So it's going to be more like a sandwich bagel, which is
So it's going to have real turkey on it, or you mean turkey
real
flavor?
turkey.
Ah,
Real turkey.
fantastic. Well, there you go, folks. So it's another addition to the entrees. I mean, you can eat that certainly at lunch, especially with one of the soups. That would be great. All the salads, that would be a great treat. So don't hesitate. Again, we're talking to Morgan, representing La Nouvelle Cafe on Magazine in between Louisiana and Napoleon on the riverside. And they're open 7 days a week from morning through all the way to evening. They're not open real late yet on the evenings, but I'm sure if traffic starts really dictating it, they'll start expanding those hours, especially for the weekend. When the fall events and when we start having a lot more of these, we have our gallery openings once a month in the fall. I'm sure they're going to find it with all the foot traffic going into the galleries right next door to them, that they'll find it convenient to stay open a little later those nights so you folks can saunter on in and get something truly enjoyable. Now let's talk a little bit about the beverages because, again, we're getting near the end of the show and we'll let Kenny come on back, but we don't want to talk. Obviously, it's a coffee shop, so you're going to have the full line of coffees. Is that correct?
Right. We have great coffee.
Both hot and cold. Is that right?
Exactly.
Okay. So there you go, folks. You have nothing to worry about there. If you want your morning Java, there's the place to go anytime during the day. But I know another thing, I've talked about it several times, that it hasn't got to the States yet as much, but there's been a resurgence of teas, not just from England, from the Asian countries. That tea rooms are sprouting up all over, just like the coffee shops. So even though they're not doing a lot of these homemade teas here yet, they have some really great brand teas that are lots of flavors, both ice and heat, that will really, and I'm a big tea. I don't drink coffee at all, so I'm always looking at tea. Let's talk about some of the teas you have to offer the public, please.
For cold teas, we have, like regular tea, and we also have a Jakarta ginger,
Okay.
and we have a black tea, we have a cinnamon tea, we have a peppermint tea, and we also have, for hot teas, we have peach tea, green tea, and kind of like an orange flavored tea, mint tea for hot also.
Wow, great.
So we have a whole bunch of teas.
So there you go, folks, and really nice. And then they have a full line of designer sodas. I call them designer or gourmet sodas. I mean, they're not just the Cokes and stuff like that. They're name brands, but they're very new. The black cherries, which is my favorite soda of all. So you have a really deluxe line of accompaniments to this situation. So you really have a nice thing. Now, of course, there's no alcohol, but this is not geared to be an alcoholic restaurant. So that's why they're not open late in the evening. It is a breakfast and lunch cafe.
Right.
I think we've touched on most of the items. I think there's anything else that we've left out. Is there anything you can think of that we didn't touch on, so we won't do a disservice? I know you've done a bang-up job for us so far.
No, I think we
No?
pretty much covered everything. We don't serve alcohol, but if you'd like to bring a glass of wine to eat with
bottle of
your
wine?
sandwich,
Oh, great.
we'll uncork it for you.
Excellent. Excellent. Well, again, you know, every restaurant today, that certainly is the trend because whether they intend to get a liquor license or whether they don't,
Right.
they're being very accommodating because, again, especially not so much during the weekday, but, you know, this is a magazine street is a tremendous antique's paradise and gallery paradise. I mean, there's a lot of auction galleries as well as galleries themselves there. So on Saturday, this is the great place to shop. And everybody's walking with the trees and all and stopping in. So obviously, if you know, there's a lot of places you can pick up wine in the area that you can go ahead and bring yourself a bottle in and try some of these and make yourself a real continental lunch. This would be delightful, especially eating out on the gallery. Have yourself a great soup or a salad with a touch of wine, one of these great entrees, and of course finish it off with these phenomenal desserts. So you really and have a beautiful view. I mean, it's a great view of the traffic all around, just real European style. So I think it's something you need to try, folks, and we're glad they come back to the neighborhood. We're glad Magazine is proliferating with restaurants. Now we want to tell you a few more things before we go and before we turn it over. Once again, we've got some great new restaurants coming up. One was a brand new restaurant opening up hopefully this week. We talked to the owner, called Sea Level in the Mid-City area. We're going to be trying it out, and we've already talked to the owners that are coming on early on, and so this might be one where we get it within the first month to you. How about that? There's another one opening on Magazine. I tell you, coming down a little further down the road called Peppers, and we also are in conversations there. So we're looking for them as well. We also would like to say that one of the truly fine restaurants in our city called the Gamay Bistro was about a year ago sold from its owners who decided to focus on their other restaurant because many times in expanding the restaurants, the chefs realize they're stretching themselves and really don't want to do a disservice to their primary place. So the original owners and chefs of the Gamay Bistro sold it to a young man from Atlanta called Matt Caldwell, and we've spoken to Matt several times and we'll be dining, and he's coming on, I believe it's Saturday, July 26th. We'll tell you directly about it because we're really talking about a first-scale restaurant for you. But as you know, we bring on all levels, mom and pop shops to the finest dinings. That's what we're here for. And not only that, we are here to bring you the musical guests. One other thing we want to tell you about, as we said in the beginning, is that we've now been honored with having a restaurant review segment on WSMB Radio, 1350 AM on Tuesday mornings from 7:35 to 7:55. It's part of the New Orleans Living Magazine's show, and we will be able to talk generally. It's a little different, and we don't have our whole hour. We talk about restaurant chefs, both old and new, but certainly at the end, we get a chance to tell you who's going to be on what new restaurants we've just featured and which ones are coming on. So it's a great opportunity for us to get additional viewership, and we're hoping to expand the show even beyond the limits of Orleans Parish. So what we want to do is now turn it over to our great pianist. I want to thank you all coming back and see us next Saturday at 3 p.m. on Channel 77. And Mr. Kenny Gaines, would you tell us please what you're going to pull us out with?
Well, I think I'm going to do a song for you called, actually I don't remember what it was I was going to do. Oh yes, The Love of Mine. This is a song I wrote here.